Hey guys, what's up? Sandu here, back with another cool DAP review. This is currently the flagship DAP by Shanling called M6, and as usual I'm quite curious how it will perform with all my headphones, starting with IEMs and finishing with big ass planars. So let's check it out. Pretty nice design, nice box. Seems premium. And this is it, the M6 itself. Lots of glass on the back and on the front. And what else could be found? We have a USB Type-C cable in a textile jacket, nice quality. And right here you have a quick start guide, a warranty card, and also two screen protectors for your front and for the back. And that is basically it. Unfortunately, no TPU case, no protective case. So Shanling is offering separately a real leather case. And sincerely, that is a must-buy accessory, seeing all that glass on the front and on the back. Okay, let's move on. In terms of design, I find it handsome looking, and I really like that Shanling doesn't copy anyone and has its own way of expression. The upper right rounded corner reminds that this is still a Shanling DAP. I really like that those three buttons are flashed and aren't sticking out that much. I also like that it has only 3 buttons and only a volume wheel. It's so easy remembering where's where and what is doing. The buttons have a firm press and are sitting really tight, and the same can be said about the volume wheel. I don't see any dust building up around that wheel, and I'm seeing only high tolerance machining. The aluminum case seems to be an unibody design made from a single piece of aluminum with just 2 glass sheets on the front and on the back. Shanling moved all the inputs and outputs on the bottom for that clean and minimalist look. From left to right there is your USB Type-C for charging, for data transfer, or for using it as a desktop or portable DAC. There is your normal 3.5mm jack, followed by 2 balanced outputs coming in 2.5mm and 4.4mm flavors. As for display, as you can see, the glass sheets are identical on the front and on the back, but that doesn't mean that the display is having the exact same size. It was a clever design decision to make it look bezel-less. M6 is using a smallish 4.7-inch multi-touch display with a decent 720p resolution. It's an IPS panel that was provided by Sharp, so viewing angles are quite good, brightness is good too, even resolution is decent enough for some basic web browsing. Do note that a higher resolution screen or a bigger screen size will seriously decrease the battery life of M6, and this is the last thing you'd want in an advanced high-resolution music player. Under the hood, M6 rocks the famous Snapdragon 430, which might sound like a mid-range CPU for your smartphone, but for a DAP it is among the fastest and the most reliable ones. Shanling put inside the biggest RAM capacity of any DAP, so at 4GB you can be sure that M6 is multitasking champ, even while streaming some high-resolution content via Wi-Fi and then sending all that to a wireless headphone via LDAC. As for internal memory, M6 is having 32GB of music storage, and if you would like to expand it, just use a micro SD card up to 2TB in size. I'm super glad to report that the international version of M6 supports Google Play Store, from which you can install any app you could possibly want, including games, streaming apps like Tidal, Spotify, Deezer, YouTube, mail clients, and anything you'd want really. At the heart of M6, 2 AK4495 DAC chips are working in dual mono configuration to achieve the best dynamic range this silicon can offer. Obviously, the DAC chip tells only a very small part of a much bigger story, as everything else is as important in the analog or digital domain. If you want to squeeze the best a DAC chip can offer, it's an unwritten rule that some precise crystal clocks will be needed, together with a custom FPGA code, and it seems that Shanling is following that rule. 2 low noise and low phase noise crystal clocks are being used here, plus some mumbo jumbo with lots of zeros and ones that makes a nice FPGA do its job. As for the headphone amplification duties, Shanling went with a reference tuning, in a detriment of a safer or warmer tuning, so 2 OPA 1612 op-amps are being used as low-pass filters, together with some very resolute and clean-sounding AD 8397 op-amps that will work as the final amp stage. M6 will output up to 160 mW of power into 32 ohms on the normal 3.5mm jack and up to 350 milliwatts in the same load on both balanced outputs. And now here comes some extra juicy stuff. So to have a proper power delivery and slam in the bass, some fat capacitors are needed to store some of that power and release it at the right moment. M6 uses 4 bigger Elnasil MiG2 Japanese capacitors, which are currently among the best audio caps money can buy. Shanling went even deeper and added even some fancier caps like Panasonic Tantalum Polymer that are adding a lot to the cost but are well worth when it comes to sonics. So they will smooth out the sonics and will add an additional layer of refinement. Shanling didn't state exactly which Bluetooth chip is being used in here, but since it can decode anything you'd want like SBC, AAC, aptX, aptX HD and LDAC, I can already tell that it must be the flagship chipset from Qualcomm, the CSR 8675. M6 can work as a sender but also as a Bluetooth receiver, which is quite nice. Okay guys, so let's move to the most important part, the sound quality. The most sensitive IEM that I'm using right now are FH7 by FiiO, which by chance are also the ones that I like the most with their super engaging and explosive type of sound. So with the smaller Shanling Q1 that you can see right here, they sounded absolutely dead silent without a trace in the background noise, and it wouldn't be a surprise to hear the same type of sound and experience with its bigger brother M6. So with M6 on maximum volume and engaging that high gain, again there isn't a trace of background noise, just absolutely nothing, just an overwhelming sense of silence and pitch black background. Once you start listening to your music, there is an overwhelming feeling of cleanness, of an extended frequency response that carries just a reference tuning that Shanling put inside the M6. So M6 impresses a lot more with its technical aspect and much less with its musicality. So if on Shanling Q1 I was experiencing that vivid, that natural, that colorful sound reproduction that was always smooth, easygoing and relaxing all the time, M6 just feels like a sport car by comparison. So speed is improving absolutely tremendously, slam is hitting me relentlessly, especially on both the balanced outputs. M6 is sounding absolutely amazing. So M6 is not smooth sounding at all, but it's mostly dynamically engaging, pushing big amounts of air in an instant. So volume wise, on the low gain, on the 3.5 jack with the FH7 I was at about 55 out of 100, and on the balanced outs I was at 45 out of 100 for the same sound pressure level. So with any IEM I would listen to, the headroom was always impressively huge, there would be a lot of volume left on tap, dynamics were really great too, and driver control was among the best I've heard in a portable DAP. So it is very much on the same level with the FiiO M11 Pro that is a little bit pricier. So all those IEMs that I tried sounded as punchy and as kicking, as alive, and exactly as I know them sounding on my desktop big rig. Moving on to portable over-ear headphones like Sennheiser Momentum 2 and Meze 99 Classics that have a slower and a mellower approach again to music reproduction. When I'm connecting those to the Shanling M6, I'm again feeling that additional energy is coming out of those drivers, the tempo is increasing its speed, and finally there is a much clearer leading edge of all the notes. So the sound is not only full-bodied but also incredibly outlined and sharp. So M6 is adding a much needed kick and impact for those dynamic drivers. So the more I listen, the more I am realizing that those dynamic drivers of the Momentum 2 and 99 Classics really like to have a stronger grip and a higher damping factor with a powerful amplifier. So M6 did not completely transform those headphones into something else, but made them much more enjoyable in the long run. So music is not half limp sounding anymore, and that is probably the biggest improvement that I've heard on the M6 with those two headphones. So as with IEMs, portable over-ears don't need that much power to be properly driven. So even on the 3.5mm jack I was at about 60 out of 100, and on the balanced out I would be at 50 out of 100. So again, the headroom was absolutely bottomless. There is nothing stopping those drivers in achieving the best they can offer. So both of those headphones again sounded very alike, like on the desktop big rig. Shanling didn't make this one for heavy-duty planar magnetic headphones, but what the hell, why not? Let's do this. So OTC LCD1 are the most sensitive desktop planar magnetic headphones that I know. So even on the 3.5mm jack I was at about 70 out of 100, and I could go maximum up to 75 for half an hour, maybe an hour. So LCD1 were perfectly driven to the fullest potential, and with that fast and energetic nature of LCD1 was absolutely preserved. So LCD1 started throwing really good dynamics. They sounded jumpy with some particular tracks. So sadly the soundstage size of LCD1 remained the same, and that is the fault of the headphone and not of the M6 itself. So depth was great, and that 3D pinpoint imaging remained intact too. I'm glad that famous planar slam remained intact, and LCD1 sounded fast and engaging, but also smooth and relaxing, depending on the music I would listen to. So moving on to the Quad Era 1 and to the mighty RZH Phobos, again on the 3.5mm jack I could go as high as 85 out of 100. So still not maxed out, and there is still plenty of volume left for pretty good dynamics and decent headroom. So both sounded exactly as I remember them on the sounding on the bigger desktop equipment, with just a minor hit in the bass slam and in the transient response. So anything else like transparency, like accuracy, like dynamics and frequency extremes were there in spades, and everything was presented as clean, defined, natural, without a trace of shrillness or dryness. Only when I moved to the Hi-Fi Man area and then to the OTC LCD4, it was clear to me that even the balanced connection couldn't tame those beasts. So volume was maxed out, and I still wanted for a lot more than that. Dynamics went hide and seek, and it wasn't just a satisfactory experience for me. So this last test was mostly done for fun, as M6 wasn't developed for such heavy loads, and it shouldn't be a surprise for anyone. In terms of soundstage and depth, even without any burn-in, Shanling M6 presented itself as really open and wide sounding, and in this respect it actually plays with the best DAPs that I tried as of late. So the biggest eye-openers for me were actually the FiO FH7 in the balanced connection, together with the RZH Phobos, which both sounded exceptionally well. It's actually open, layered and really airy. So when I moved to the balanced connection, since the channel crosstalk is decreasing a lot in size, the left to right space is actually increasing a lot, so the space between the notes is actually increasing in size. And while listening to crowded music like rock or metal, I can distinguish quite easily where everything is located in the space. So even bad mastered music or upfront music can be untangled or put on like on different shelves. As for transient response, those big capacitors from Elna and from Panasonic were put there to store electricity and push it when a track would need an instant rise of dynamics and slam. So in the first 2 days, actually Shanling M6 sounded a bit reserved and quite stiff in terms of speed, and I feel that it needs just a little bit of runtime to awake those transients. And 2 days later, M6 improved quite a lot with the right tracks, and it is actually capable of pushing big amounts of air in an instant. Even from the first second of Killing Strangers by Marilyn Manson, it was clear to me that M6 can present a really serious thump. So I want almost to lower that volume thanks to that crazy impact into the eardrums. So I do recommend this song even if you don't like the genre, because this can be considered as a reference recording in testing out the slam with headphones, or just thumping the chest with your speakers. In terms of details, M6 is sounding clean and transparent. So obviously that everything is at play here, that dual mono AKM configuration, those good crystal clocks, great FPGA coding, clean power filtering, and obviously that meticulous selection of op-amps. So M6 has a good detail retrieval and a really good frequency extremes. I felt layers in the bass. I felt that guttural voice of Leonard Cohen that goes really low. Treble goes high in the sky, and everything is presented just really transparent and clean. There isn't a veil across any tracks, that is unless you are listening to really bad mastered music. But I will just add that M6 is just shy of sounding as transparent and as detailed as a reference desktop DAC or as a reference DAP. So it hangs out with the big boys, with the best there is, but still not on the same level with them. In terms of frequency response, this will be a shorter chapter. That is because Shanling went with a linear and extended frequency response without a hint of coloration. So there are a few brave manufacturers that want to make from ESS Saber designs, making them musical sounding, and there are others that are making AKM designs sounding musical but also super detailed. So Shanling is definitely part of this group. So most of the AKM designs will be all about smoothness, about relaxation, about roll-off in the treble. But M6 on the other hand is vastly different, so it chooses to have a linear frequency response that is extended even past 16 kHz area. So obviously I don't hear a roll-off in the treble and everything is presented as balanced across the board. Briefly, I would just say that I experienced a deep and rumbling bass that reached even the lowest octaves. Mid-range was sounding sweet only when the song asked for it. Voices sounded real and really distinctive. And treble was among the cleanest that I've experienced in a DAP. So if you chase an extended frequency response with a reference tuning at a really good price, then I think M6 is probably your best bet. I also compared it with the Fire M11 Pro, but since I don't want to make this video super long or boring, please check my detailed comparison and some juicy pics below. Going on into the conclusion, build quality seems to be really nice. It looks sturdy and really well put together. It moves decently fast. That full Android experience is absolutely amazing and I could install any app that I wanted. And when it comes to sound performance, M6 stood out immediately with that high level of detail, with that open wide soundstage, with that speedier delivery of dynamics. So yeah, M6 really deserves to have that flagship status and it could be easily compared to any pricier units any time of the day. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. My full in-depth review is waiting on my website. In case you want to support this channel, please subscribe to it and thank you for doing that. As usual, listen to my music, be positive and I'll see you soon. Cheers guys, bye bye.